We will never have a better chance than this.
I can't stop thinking about the incredible character journeys in Andor. This show is beloved, a show about what it takes to become a rebel. But here's the thing. I think there's even more going on under the surface. There's a darker, more complicated story hidden in plain sight. So if you enjoyed Andor, watch on, and I think you might just fall in love with the show all over again. And this scene is key to it all.
There is one way out.
But let's start at the beginning, because there's a question we need to understand first. Why is Cassian Andor not already a rebel? I mean, this guy has been deeply traumatized by the Empire. They destroyed the planet he grew up on, they killed his father, and they sent him to a youth detention center for 3 years. But when we meet Cassian, he's coasting.
Better to eat, sleep, do what you want.
In the words of the show's creator, Tony Gilroy, he's utterly disillusioned, completely self-interested, and can't control his temper. So, what does it take to become a rebel? It takes a personal journey, and you know the story of Cassian's journey. He meets real rebels on Aldhani, he kills the thief, he's caught up in the Empire's crackdown, he sees Kino sacrifice his life.
Can't swim!
He sees his own community rise up, and he's reminded of his own goodness by his mother.
He knows everything he needs to know and feels everything he needs to feel. And when the day comes that those two pull together, he will be an unstoppable force for good.
And his heart changes.
Kill me. Or take me in.
Simple, right? As Vel says.
Everyone has their own rebellion.
Except it's way more complicated than that. So let's return to Kino's speech.
There is one way out.
One way out. But how did Kino come to his own rebellion? He had less than a year on his sentence. All he wanted to do was keep his team safe so they could one day be free.
Oh, let's keep our mouths shut, keep our heads down.
There was nothing Cassian could have ever said to convince Kino to sacrifice his chance at freedom. But then Kino has his hope destroyed. He realizes that there is truly only one way out.
No one is getting out!
This incredibly moving sacrifice,
Can't swim!
it didn't happen purely from altruism. And that's the deeper story going on in Andor, and what makes this show so riveting. Because the journey of becoming a rebel, it has to be forced. Rebellions only happen when people have one way out. So let's take another look at the building blocks of Cassian's journey. Aldhani, the prison, Nemik's manifesto, Marva's words, and the Ferrix riot. None of that happens without the prison. And that's the result of harsh Imperial sentencing directives. And those directives are the result of the Aldhani heist. And the Aldhani heist was organized by Luthen to deliberately provoke an overreaction.
People will suffer.
That's the plan.
So there you go. A rebellion built on hope is also built through coercion, through darkness, making things get so bad that people realize they only have one way out. And that requires a leader who's willing to inflict terrible pain for a greater good, who's willing to sacrifice his very soul.
I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
Luthen even looks like Darth Vader in this shot. Isn't that incredible? And it gets even better, because if rebellions aren't just hope and light, maybe there's more to the Empire.
You! How?
Isn't it so weird to find yourself rooting for Dedra and Syril? How is this romance the love story we never thought we needed?
Just being in your presence,
Because underneath the big, bad, evil empire, it's a bunch of bureaucrats. It's a workplace full of ambition, resentment, ineptitude, and politics.
I suggest you schedule an appointment.
And Dedra and Syril are underdogs, with their own imperial antagonists. So we can't help but cheer as Syril bucks his chief and goes off in pursuit of Cassian.
There comes a time when the risk of doing nothing becomes the greatest risk of all.
Isn't this line genius? It's a rebel line spoken by an Imperial officer. And we can't help but smile as Dedra fights her way through jurisdictional battles.
We're treating what happened at Aldhani like a robbery.
What would you call it?
An announcement.
Because she's entirely right. Shockingly so. If the sentencing directive doesn't happen, Cassian isn't picked up. If Cassian isn't picked up, the events of Rogue One don't happen. The Empire wins. The Empire's response to Aldhani quite literally sows the seeds of its own destruction. But back to the story. What's shocking is that Dedra and Syril aren't inherently evil. They're human, the products of their own upbringings and the society shaping them. In another time, I could imagine them being great officers in the Republic.
I'd like to know if anyone here believes the rebellion plans its actions around the artificially constructed boundaries of our sectors.
Perhaps Andor's greatest trick is that it's not just the story of how rebellions form. It's also the story of how empires are built. And just like there's a dark side to the rebellion, there's another side to the empire, and it's mundane. It's sentencing quotas and jurisdictional disputes, driven at the top by evil, but sustained by people who are just doing their jobs.
Look at me! You wanted to lead. This is what it comes to.
And I think that's the final piece of Andor's puzzle. If the Empire is driven by people just doing their jobs, then becoming a rebel means sacrificing that comfortable life and taking on great personal risk.
Val. Go.
Giving everything, with no guarantee of success, just the possibility that others might live in a better world that you probably won't get to see. And who does that? Who sacrifices their comfort, their income, and their safety? We all have a tremendous bias to the status quo, to our security, to keeping our lives simple, even if they're not perfect. Just like Cassian, and just like Kino. And we see this in all of Andor's other characters. Lonnie is a father who just wants to be with his family. Vel wants credit for her work. Mon Mothma doesn't go all in until banking crackdowns from the Aldhani heist force her.
I found a solution.
And of course, Marva.
For 13 years, every time I walk down Rick's Road, I turn off before I get to the square. I take the long way around, so I don't have to think about Clem hanging there.
Even Luthen admits how he's driven by his ego.
My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight. They set me on a path from which there's no escape.
The original Star Wars presented the rebels and the Empire as sharp contrasts, good and evil. Andor shows us the darkness in the rebels and the humanity in the Empire. It feels more three-dimensional, as if it reflects the real world all around us. It's as if both Star Wars and all of us have grown up. I wonder if you can relate, realizing something or someone you once saw as entirely good or bad has way more going on under the surface. So, what does it really take to become a rebel? It takes realizing that there's only one way out, and that requires people to sacrifice their decency, to use the tools of the enemy, so that the sacrifice of others can be made noble, so that others can create the hope.
The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. It is never more alive than when we sleep.
So that ordinary people can truly understand the power of their collective might.
The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try.
Hey everyone, I'm Kapil. What was your favorite part of Andor? Leave a comment, and if you want to support me, the best thing you can do is hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.